it's so good to have you here and to talk about your session that you're going to be doing at the Step Up conference coming up on April 28th. So the title of your presentation is Investing Beyond the Dollar. So tell me about that.
Yeah, that came to me after we had talked. I saw your post and I thought, ooh. And then we spoke and I thought, and told you about our mission statement, what we do at Vault, and that investing in empathic solutions. And you said that was the part that stuck out. You said, ooh, that right there. Talk about that. And so I was like, what does that, it makes you think about what the work you're actually doing. And somewhere it was investing beyond the dollar that came to me of we say we're a human-centered investment company. We talk about disrupting and transforming historically exclusive systems by investing in empathic solutions that increase equity, access, and a sense of belonging. And really what that means is like we're looking at people, and we have traditional investments, we have a real estate portfolio, but our bread and butter are these community-based investments. And it's where are there gaps and inequities in the systems around us, and where can we potentially step in and make a difference? And there are phenomenal people doing great work. And if we can invest in those people, then we're doing something. We're doing something to change the systems around us, because we know that the systems are not working in their current state. They're not working for Black and brown people. So if we are investing in the human who has a good idea, it's not about the bottom line. Yes, we have to operate a business. Yes, we have the bottom, we have to continue to do business, but that is not the sole mission of what we do. When we started about 4 years ago, we were put around some angel investors, and we sat through a few pitches, and we being Doug, the CEO, and myself, we said, this isn't it. Like, it's not just us putting money somewhere. And our first investment was Boon Boona Coffee in Renton, and Ephraim Fasaha, who owns Boon Boona. Doug doesn't drink coffee. It's not that we don't care about the coffee, but it's like, we're not investing in that. We're investing in Ephraim and who he is. He was voted small businessman of the year last year, I want to say, and the work that he does in the community. So it's investing, looking at people looking at investments beyond just the bottom line. We have to look at capitalism different. If you were to ever talk to Doug, and that is his thing, is to get in front of business people and say he wants to flip capitalism on its head. We have to start looking at systems differently. We have to do things differently, because what's happening now is not working for people of color. So, yeah.
And so just for our listeners, who is the CEO of Vault?
The CEO is Doug Baldwin Jr., former Seattle Seahawk. Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make that clear.
Yes.
They're like, who's Doug?
Yeah, I know. We've known each other now for 11 years, I think. So I know him as Doug. And then just yesterday we were standing outside as we were leaving the office, and someone pulled up to the stoplight, and you're like, are you Doug Baldwin? And I'm like, you still get this on the streets. Like, people recognize you out there. So it's a thing, apparently. I just know him as, this is my business partner, and that we say we're family at this point.
Right,
so.
Right. And I love what you're doing, because investing beyond the dollar, a lot of times we can get stuck on looking at that bottom line. It's like, all right, we need to make money. We need to make money. But what are we doing to improve our communities? What are we doing to lift up the voices of brown and Black individuals who can be invisible, who can be found invisible so quickly in our system? So I love that. I love that that's what you're doing. I mean, whenever I hear of the work that you and Doug is doing, I'm like, you know what? That's aloha. That is aloha, is that when we are able to give of ourselves, and the only thing that we expect in return is a better community for the rest of our kids to live in, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's what we look for. It truly is what we look for. It's stepping back and taking the human aspect bringing the human aspect into business, and it's translating the spirit of aloha into business, right? You speak the language, you got to speak it. We know what we're saying when we're in there. You talk to you know how it is in the space, in the business space, in privilege, and who has the money and perceived power in those spaces. And it really is going in and just saying, we're all human, right? Like, I don't care how much money you have. I don't care what it is you're trying to do. You're still a human at the end of the day. You go home at the end of the day, and we tap into that, right? Our values are honesty, curiosity, and forgiveness. And so we take that into, it doesn't matter who we're talking to. Doug was down meeting with Bruce Harrell yesterday, Mayor Harrell yesterday, and it's trying to solve a problem, and it's bringing back the human aspect to it of just, can we just try to be nice to each other and have a conversation? Let's not overcomplicate this, right? And so looking for that. And then the number of calls that we get from people who think that we have endless amounts of money. We don't, but we do have an incredible network of resources. And so yesterday was back to back calls for me. And by the end of the day, I was almost in tears. Like, I don't have all the money. I can't solve all these problems. But the conversations are so good because we tell people, we don't have to do anything right now. Let's build a relationship. Let's start the conversation. Let's see who else we can bring to the table. We don't have to figure it all out in order to just get something done. Let's start doing the work now and work together to try to create that impact for communities. There was an incredible conversation I had with someone yesterday around BIPOC farming and how to create an entirely new system, which, I'll talk about it any length because I'm so excited about it, but it's changing a system and how it's been done in the past. And saying, she called me up and said, Kimmy, I did something. I did something and I didn't know who else to call. I need your help. And it was like, she signed something because an opportunity presented itself. And it's so rare that a Black or brown person, immigrant, refugee, gets an opportunity to do something really cool. So she said, I had to say yes. And then I turned around and said, how am I going to get this done? So we're figuring it out together. We're going to figure it out, but it's going to be good. It's going to be good.
That's awesome. And so with your with what you're going to be presenting at the Step Up conference, what can some of the audience expect from your session?
I will organize my thoughts. I promise to organize my thoughts before this because I tend to get so excited about the work that I realize it's all over the place. So I think that listeners can expect, I am not the smartest person in the room. I claim that from the beginning, right? Like, I listen to podcasts, I go to conferences, I listen to phenomenal speakers and like, wow, they're really good. That's not me, right? Like, I'm good at what I do. I can claim that with confidence, but I will not claim to be the smartest person in the room who has it all figured out. What they can expect is that I will share just some strategies on what we've decided to do at Vault and how we choose to approach our work. Offering a different perspective in how to look at investments, there will be pretty heavy on action items. Like, I always want to leave people with very tangible things that are relevant to where they live, work, and play, right? Those social determinants of health. We all can have an impact in our communities. It has to be authentic to who you are as a person. You may not be the person that's out there screaming on the front lines in rallies. I just yesterday had that conversation. Someone said, I need to be more assertive. I'm not this person. I said, you aren't, and you shouldn't be. What is your impact that you can have true to who you are? So I think it's, to get back to that, of being able, how you can challenge a system. You can do it with respect. You can do it with honor. You can do it in just having a conversation. But I think here are some tips on how you can start to ask some really challenging questions in your community, in your place of work, where you want to see a difference, and how to make that relevant to where you live, work, and play. Of just, let's try to look at things a little bit differently. What is the current landscape, and how can we start to challenge to see the change that we want to see?
So it sounds like there's going to be a lot of perspective and paradigm shifting. It's like people will be coming in with one way of thinking on investment and also on their bottom line. And with what you and Doug have done and what you'll be sharing, is shifting it to bring in more of a human element into your investment. So, it's like, I feel like a lot of times in organizations, we tend to treat people like robots. We use them up and throw them out when we're done with them, not thinking about how can we improve their life by improving our lives as well too. It's a reciprocal relationship that we can have with each other. So I'm excited to see what you bring and what you're going to be able to offer. And you've been working with Vault you and Doug Baldwin's been doing this for how long now?
We're officially in year 4. So he announced his retirement in 2019. I was finishing up at the county. We obviously had known each other, done some work together up until this point. And then in 2019, he said, it's time, let's do it. And I said, what are we doing? And he said, I don't know, but we're going to figure it out. And we have. And then the pandemic hit. So we got through that. And so we're year 4 right now.
It's like, I love the fact that it's like, I don't know, we're going to figure it out. The improvisation gives so much creativity to what can possibly be. And I feel that when we go in, it's like, this is our objective, this is what we're going to do. It gives no room for evolution to occur.
Yeah. And I think that's the fun conversations that we have, right? Like we made a commitment to listen. We made a commitment to just be in the spaces and just listen to what's happening. And we don't know when the timing is going to be right for something to happen, but let's just go in and listen. And it's fun to sit with people. I was talking to a dietitian from Odessa Brown Clinic yesterday. We're talking about sickle cell. We were talking about racism in the healthcare system. And she said, do you want to know where it is? Let's talk sickle cell, right? So because it is hereditary and it targets Black and African-American people. So we're having that conversation. And I said, she was looking for money, right? And I said, what is your goal? Like, what is your vision? What is your audacious vision for what can happen? And she told me, and she said, but I can't even think about that when my families are hungry. They just need food tomorrow. And I said, okay, let's start there. Let's have this conversation. And honestly, that is like the funnest part of my job are those conversations. And if we could do more of that, even in the investment space, you want to talk to, people who are doing all the development that's happening and the gentrification, all of these things that are happening. I want to sit down with them and say, what's your goal here? Right. I would love for Doug to get in front of them because one of the projects that we are refining is in one of our real estate properties is a 6-unit building. And we have this community of resources. So Doug's saying, let's look at the bottom line here. He went in when he purchased it. Let's do landscaping right away. Let's do some of the beautification pieces, just so that it looks nice. So people feel good when they come home. Then we said, okay, if they go see a financial counselor, we'll pay that fee and we'll give them a rent credit. If they go see a mental health therapist, we'll pay the fee and they receive a rent credit, right? The idea being, so business people will say, well, that's not smart for your bottom line. Our argument would be, actually, if you take care of people and we treat people as humans and with dignity, they're going to be more likely to take care of their space. There's going to be less turnover, all these things. You create a safe space community, then we will argue that there actually is not that much difference in the bottom line and that our bottom line will probably look better long-term than yours. So those are the fun things that we get to do in our work.
That's such beautiful work. That is such beautiful work.
Yeah.
So what is the single most important message you want to convey to your audience to help move racial equity forward? And I know that's a big question.
It's a huge question. It's a huge question. And if you know me, I don't always follow rules. So to have a single most thing, right? I'm like, rules are just really strong suggestions in most cases. And you can tell me one thing. It's like, I told you couldn't do this. And I often say, but you didn't see I couldn't do this and end up with the same result. But I think one of the most important messages is, especially in the business spaces I'm learning, business and corporate world, be human. Like, can we just take a time out and be human for a second and rethink? some things and have a conversation. And I know that's super general and woo woo and all that stuff, but any CEO that I have had an opportunity to talk to, we bring in the human aspect to it. And when I leave those conversations, the gratitude that comes with that of thank you for just asking me how I am or asking about myself, that opens the floodgates for opportunity if you're willing to have those conversations. And so I think yes, we're on the grind. Yes, we're on the bottom line. All those business pieces are absolutely 100% there. And we are all about the grind. We want those things too. Like I'm dealing with a Super Bowl winner competitor at heart. We have that in that drive in us. We just have to rethink how we're operating in that space to truly create change. So if we can talk about that in the session and other people are bringing in suggestions of what's working for them, and we'll be creating that space on how can we best have this conversation, and then all leave feeling really good about going back to our communities and having some impact and creating some change. Think outside the box.
Absolutely. It's like I always use the quote by Jiddu Krishnamurti that says that the only hope for humankind is in the transformation of the individual.
Yeah.
That we all need to start transforming the way we think about ourselves, our businesses, our investments, our community. We are not separate from one another. We are not. What we do to each other is going to come back to us. I mean, it's the whole reciprocity. It's about in Hawaii, we call it, being pono, being right with each other. And, it's like when we can see the humanity in each other, then we can create the different systems. And when we look at each other for being human, it also talks about seeing each other beyond the color lines, right? In our minds, we have set ourselves up to see each other as Black and brown and white and Asian. That we don't see. When we do that, we erase the ancestors and the brilliance that comes with every individual. And so I really admire the work that you're doing and what Doug Baldwin has done beyond Seahawks, right? It's like, that's one of the things is that a lot of people are like, Doug Baldwin, Seahawks, more. He is more than just a Seahawk. He is a humanitarian. And for you two to be partners, girl.
Every once in a while, we talk about staying humble, but every once in a while we're like, we're good, right? We are not brilliant. And he will tell you that too. Like, we don't have all the answers, but we tell our partners that, like, people, we're developing a youth mental health app as well. Someone tried to come in and say, well, what's your goal when you go into the districts and you have to have, X, Y, and Z. And I go, no, I don't. I said, I am not an app developer. No, I am health equity and health and wellness. And so that is not the attitude I go in. I go in and say, hey, we see that there's a need. We're thinking this could be a good idea. What do you think? And it's, tell us your expertise. What would be helpful to you? And he goes, oh, well, that works too. I said, yeah, it seems to work pretty well for us. So we're going to keep going that track. So there's no ego. I mean, there's Super Bowl champion. There's a little bit of ego sometimes, but which is also why I work with him after 11 years. I'm not the yes person that's going to give him the answers that he wants, but there's no ego in it of like, let's figure it out together. Collectively, we can do some pretty incredible work. But we're a small team. We need other people with us in it. So
yeah, exactly. And it's like utilizing that privilege and power for betterment. That shifts the way that we look at power and privilege as well too. And so that's beautiful work. And thank you so much for being part of Step Up, and this is the 7th annual Step Up conference. Last year we had about 600 people. We're hoping to have more. And with you bringing in your expertise and your wisdom, I'm sure we're going to, hit more than our 7. We'd like to have more than 800, maybe even 1,000. We'll see. So,
That scares me. I hope you know how much that scares me when you say those numbers. I'm like, oh Lordy, I just want to be quiet and do the work, but whoo, it's gonna be good. I'm looking forward to it. I'm
well,
really
you've got a lot to share, and it's like we need different tools, we need different ideas on how we can be better together, because the old system is not working anymore. So let's start to create new systems. And so, like you were talking about, let's create new systems to make the old systems obsolete, right? It's like that's what Bucky, what's his name? My mind just kind of like went blank. Anyway, so yeah, I'm looking forward to having you, and thank you. Thank you for being part of this interview.
Yeah, thank you. Always good to see you. Always good.
Absolutely, absolutely. Good to see you, Kimmy.
All right, thank you.